Go. Here we go. 5, 4. We are actually live.
This is 2OF Entertainment.
We're back. Happy
It's
2025.
January. It's January. And,
I know, right? The year's almost done again.
well, we're in season 3, and man, we're booked solid. So it's
That's great. And it's funny. You're season 3. Our channel is in season 4.
Yeah, well, we're late starters. Actually, that's
No, not really.
I was just waiting to make sure that you got the engine running before I jumped into the car.
So that's right. We have some shows that are in season 1 and season 2. So it's a very cool thing. So
Yeah.
but people like the show. They like to see the art from around. And it's funny, we talk about this, but the YouTube numbers sometimes don't show it, but we put the show in other places, and the numbers will be 10 or 20 times greater there than on YouTube. So you have like 10 or 15,000 people watching you on a weekly basis with your artists, which is great.
And it's good for artists to have that kind of an audience.
Yep.
It diversifies, spreads the word. Nice to do.
It doesn't hurt.
Well, let's just talk about our artists today. We got
Sure.
Teri Donovan. Teri Donovan's going to be with us from Ontario and from Toronto. Now, every artist is different. Like literally, their journey is very different, and Teri's is quite different. But I think she kind of personifies a lot of other artists, especially female artists, that are really trying to find a little about their past and their family aspects into their work. And she has found a way that is very, very distinctive way of showing her style of work. And it's very lyrical type of work. One piece kind of talks with the other one. And it tells a story about, and it's very, very, very personal. A lot of artists can just paint a painting and it's done.
Right.
Teri's a multimedia artist, and her paintings are involved in, I guess, her life, really involved in perceptions of life, past, future, present types of work.
Wow.
And maybe we should just bring her in, and we'll talk. She's a graduate of York U and U of Toronto, so she's got some knowledge behind what she's doing, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Teri, welcome to the show. Have a wonderful interview. Now I'm going to disappear and draw stick figures while you two have a great interview. So enjoy.
All right. Have a great day.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Well, good day to you.
Pardon me. Oh, yes. Good day to you,
I got to turn my volume up a little bit here or there. Maybe you can hear me better now.
Yes.
But, no, see the clutter behind you is it's quite welcoming as an artist to see another artist studio that's just plugged full of stuff. Yeah.
Yes, I've run out of storage room, so now my walls are my storage area.
Isn't that true? I think we all could use some kind of large Quonset, and I think we could fill it up. Generally, an artist you fill up the space that you have. If they gave you a warehouse, I'd love a warehouse. You just start work from one end to the other. But you know what? If you have a small space, it forces you to figure out how to deal with it. So it's encouraging you to have shows, sales, and keep that. Actually, if you just keep the artwork kind of moving, if you have a half a dozen galleries and you can just move your art from one to the other, that can keep about 60 to 100 pieces of art moving. Just don't want it ever to stop anywhere and collect. You just want to keep it on the move.
Mm-hmm. That would be ideal.
It would be ideal, and I think I just looking at your work, and it really, I don't know what it is. It's centered with me, and meaning I'm a male, and I'm looking at, I guess, a female's perspective of family and futures and past and present and things that are happening in our world, I guess, and our individual worlds as artists, thinking about how do we put ourselves onto that canvas, or substrate of some way that makes it worthwhile, that I want to spend the time doing it. Like, that's the first thing. Am I correct a little bit in thinking that?
Yeah, but actually, I've used photographs of my family as references for the paintings to not necessarily just speak about my family, but to talk about patterns that are handed down through generations, patterns of behavior, thoughts, ideas that even though they're old, they're still exerting an influence on people. And so I didn't have access to other people's family photos, so I used mine. Although they're not meant to be portraits of my family in particular. They're just meant to represent or help convey this idea that that I was interested in.
Yeah. I've seen other artists, they'll go through museums and things like that and look through books, and actually even go through the old library systems and look at old books of history, I guess, of early days of settling Canada, and maybe some of the 19th century types of works, which I feel your work kind of feels like that. I don't know what it is. There's a nice sense. I'm gonna get Stephen to start up our first shot, and then we can rock and roll here. I don't think I have access. There we go.
Oh yeah. So each one of these images is actually one from a series of paintings around a specific idea. And this one, it was done quite a while ago, and it was a kind of a comment on the old ways of farming being taken over by more industrial production of food. Hence the wrappings are it's a little bit like a shroud in a sense.
Yeah.
Also, the method is encaustic, which is molten wax mixed with pigment, and that's a method that's been used actually for thousands of years. From way back in ancient Greece and Rome and Egypt, and it's continued. It's had various resurgences over periods of time, and I was using it for quite a few years in my practice.
Yeah. I love the smell of an caustic studio. It's just the
Oh
smell
yeah,
of the smell of wax and oil. Or are you using
yeah.
oil as a base as well, like oil paint?
Oil mixed with
Yeah.
beeswax. Yes,
Do you use an oil stick or actual oil paint?
actual oil paint, also oil stick, just
So
whatever's
we've had other encaustic artists on. And so do you move the pigment around with a brush or hot air or heat?
both.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So how large is this piece about?
Oh, that's a good question. Hang on one sec. I do have that written down.
Is it like
It is 30 by 32.
so it's a full sheet. It's a full
Yeah,
sheet.
it's done on heavy watercolor paper.
300 pound. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah. Yeah, you need to be on a fairly stiff surface for encaustic. A lot of people do it on wood substrates and different things, but
Yeah.
I can see the taped edge where they kind of leaked under where you had it nailed down. It's beautiful piece. I mean, it feels very Andrew Wyeth to me.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. Well, he was very much that way as well. Like, he trying to personify the feelings, and he had a way of giving you a sense of place where he lived, and he spent Chadford. He spent most of his time painting in that area. But the feeling of buildings and things that held memory seemed to be a very strong point with him. And your work is somewhat like that. I mean, that just the light condition and minimalism of a space, that you still get it across what it may be about.
Yeah, it's very involved with memory. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. I'm trying to remember more things.
Yeah.
I've been trying to do more with memory painting, and it's more about what you've seen or what you thought you saw, and try to paint that rather than paint what's actually in front of you.
Mm.
So I think it digs deeper back in your mind, and that's why I guess I love what you're doing here so much. Is just I'm finding this. It makes it feel like I said before in the beginning. It's very lyrical. There's a story here. Can you tell us?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about? This is this early stages of photos. Now you work in mixed media, I
Yes.
guess. Yeah. Can you
So
tell us?
this,
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
this work is also basically encaustic, but I've added things to it. This black and white image of a young girl is collaged onto the encaustic, and then on top of her is are pieces of old wallpaper,
Oh,
and it's the idea. The wallpaper actually, for me, in my work, acts as a metaphor for time and patterns that are handed down. Even though things change, there's always the old pattern that comes through somehow, especially in human behavior, where we politically change things, but in our in our in our social lives, often some things remain as they always had been.
yeah,
So this girl is there's hanging over her a future connected to domesticity, which is part of a pattern over centuries that has been applied to women. That's a sphere that they work in. So
yeah.
this is about that.
Well, and I think those things connect, and I think it's understandable. But how important do you think it is for artists to do what you're doing? Like, should every artist pick something and make it their mantra and actually do a little bit in one direction? I mean, it's great to, mass produce something or produce work for sale and commercially and things. Should we live two lives? Like, should we have one segment where we really can feel out how we really feel? Like it's like a diary a little bit in visual art.
Well, I don't think there's any shoulds to it. I think each artist does what feels right for them.
Yeah.
I haven't necessarily been focused on commercial success, but and I have sold, of course, but that hasn't been my primary goal. My primary goal has been to express certain ideas,
Yeah.
um, and so that's how I've gone.
So is this kind of therapy a little bit? Can you
No,
look at that a little bit?
no,
No, no. Uh,
no. It's just a realization of
it's searching, though, right? You're just
my interpretation of how things work in the world, I guess. Yeah,
yeah, and I think I'm not that's I got the wrong word, but for some it could be therapy. But I
I
think
guess.
I think there is a constant searching for answers and solutions in work, and when you share that with other people, they can maybe see a piece of that in them a little bit. I think that's when you create a nice response from a connection, I guess I'll call it.
Hmm.
And so your work is shown quite often in public spaces and places.
I have shown in public galleries, yes. And you mentioned connection, and yeah, that's uh, an important part of my work is to connect with people, not necessarily on an intellectual level, but on an experiential level or even an emotional level. That to show images that people can relate to. Now, maybe boys aren't relating to that image so much, but
Yeah,
women probably are.
yeah.
This is also encaustic, but this is a series of work that I did about the environment. And I called the series Remembering Rain. We've had an awful lot of it in the recent past, but with global warming and so on, we may be getting less and less of it. So this, you might be interested in this. This is encaustic paint that's been melted and flows down the surface of this panel. It's a wood panel, and it's supposed to be reminiscent of very heavy rain, but this is very polluted rain because of all the colors.
Yeah.
So I have, luckily I tried various ways of melting the wax, which I applied near the top of the panel. Nothing really worked, but eventually I decided to try it in a sauna. And our house happens to have a sauna. It was there when we moved in. Now it's just a storage area, but we don't use it.
Like a treadmill, it's just a storage area.
But so I put the paintings in the sauna and melted them by turning
Wow.
on the heat in the sauna. I had to
Yeah.
be very careful to stop the process before all of the wax went directly to the bottom of the panel.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, saunas do get warm, but yeah. So I know a lot of people use hot air guns,
Mhm.
air blowers, and some even use torches.
Mhm.
Which you got to be careful and catch the wood on fire,
Yep.
and you have a flame. But it felt, and when I first saw this piece, and I said, "Oh, this is definitely an environmental piece."
Yep.
Is this one of your concerns? A little bit, kind of a
Yes, and that
commentary on
concern
it?
has carried through in other series of works that I've done. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's becoming quite commonplace in a lot of artists in their own way to make a public perception of what's going on as best they can understand. I mean, here we are, artists. I mean, trying to be understanding about a science thing, but artists have a feeling for those things. You don't need to understand um, completely the science aspects of something to understand what it's doing to things, right?
Mhm.
So much,
Mhm.
I think, because so many of us are looking visually at a lot of things for what we produce and say, oh, that's not like it should be, or that's changed in a different way. It's the acid rain has done this to it, rather than 20 or 30 years ago, it didn't have that. So
Mhm.
some of that memory thing and a different thing, some of our memories aren't quite as good. We had to live through the 70s. And
I think I know what you're referring to.
I think it's back. I think the 70s are back legally. Anyway, it was a lot. Yeah. Anyway, I make fun of light of those things, but I didn't quite experience all the fun that was there. I should have gone back. Um, this piece, I love it. I mean, there's this now. Is this torn paper edges, and can you explain? This is a little bit different than the last two pieces we've seen. You can
Yes,
see
this
more
is
of the
from a
black paper. Yeah.
different series of work. Still, there's encaustic involved in this piece as well, in
Mhm.
these sort of pink splotches that cover parts of the image. But yeah, it's wallpaper in the background, old wallpaper that I sourced from a vintage wallpaper shop. And then the green paper is just paper from a paper shop that is torn and applied on. So there's various layers in this, and this woman who's sitting at this table that looks like at the end of a big dinner of some type. She's she's kind of fading, or she's being pushed into the background, which well, I should preface what I'm going to say with I'm not really making feminist art. It's I've used images of women because it's mostly women in my family photos. But the idea here is of a pattern that happens. We all eventually fade into the background. And also, historically, women have been expected to be in the background and not be the central figures of their lives. So that is kind of the thinking that's in this piece.
Yeah.
And there was a whole series of these that I actually called wallpaper, and had them configured in a organization that looked like wallpaper.
Yeah. No, it has a little bit of an old world nostalgic, I'll call it, feeling to it. And I think it's the color palette as well.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very subdued. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. You got the mixing of this flesh-colored paint that's muted and toning things back. um, no, excuse me. This set table. You know, you would always have the right way of setting a table up. I mean, and the plates and the knives and the forks and I mean, the candle is a beautiful touch. I love the candle in there. And just kind of but it's I guess it's kind of putting the right props in when you produce a still life. It's almost like a still life with figure uh,
Hmm.
when you do situations like this. And do you consider your work a little still life like, or
Um, my work tends to either figures, human figures, or still life,
right?
and sometimes a combination. Making a point of some type.
Right. Yeah. Just go on. That's quite a jump to go from there to here.
Yes.
Right.
So I left the encaustic and wallpaper concerns behind for a little bit. Started working on mylar, and this is oil on mylar. And there was a time, I guess, around the mid 20th century where women were referred to as skirts. And my mother had this red skirt that she gave to me. It's actually more like a crinoline. Um, and the color red seemed to be a really great color to use for this. So this represents women in domesticity and in their lives being torn in different directions.
Yeah.
And the words on the image are all about making sure you keep up with what's expected of you.
I wonder who those words came from.
Yeah.
We'll give
Anyway, I
we'll
don't I don't consider my work feminist art. It's
give
more to do with the patterns that are handed down in social norms.
yeah. Well, I give credit to Carole King for her song, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of artists are influenced by music while they play. Do you listen to some music while you're sometimes doing pieces of work or literature
Well,
that you read?
actually, mostly I listen to podcasts.
Well, that's good.
um, yeah.
Well, podcasts, there's a needing that background type of thing that sometimes is in the same mantra or tone that you're working in a little bit. But I could see you listening to Carole King's album Tapestry and finding something from this piece. But I feel the tensions in this piece. It's a lovely piece. I'm not really. This is a personal thing. I don't put a lot of text in a lot of work that I do, and I probably don't do it at all. But I know other artists depend on it quite strongly to give another level of conversation to their piece, not so much to say, oh, this is what the work is about, right? It's just that other visual level that becomes audible when you say it, that's different than the visual itself. So they're like two layers, the text on one with the image behind. And I think this one, it works nicely to work text with it. I mean, it's there, but it's not there. You know what I mean? Like it's a little in and out, just like your like the photographs or that you work with, right? You
Hmm.
push them
Hmm.
back and you pull them forward as to their importance. And I love the wispiness of this thing. So it's almost clothesline like, but there is, you said, that tension of tug and pull, and it's nice to hear the background. The hook on the top is very cruel.
I
I
I
love it. Like,
photographed
so did you
that
nail
in
this
a
thing to the
butcher
wall?
shop.
Was this drawn from a piece of cloth that you put up as a piece to draw from?
Yes, but I didn't have the the constraining wires and hook and so on. I just I guess I pinned up the skirt on the studio wall, and the 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 wires and the hook all came from an image, a photo that I took in a butcher shop.
Of
of
course.
meat hanging. So, but I mean, I didn't intend this to look like meat hanging, but that's
Yeah.
where that those pieces came from. Yeah, that I used this skirt in this whole series of work in a variety of ways, but this is the one image I chose from that series.
Yeah. I think you're just saying that it's not intentionally like meat and things, but those things come across, you know. It's funny when you do them, and I think as soon as you put the butcher hook on the top, almost it's a bent nail or something, but it gives you another level in your
Yeah.
work. I mean, it's like it can be something for somebody else as well, and it's a little out there, right? It's a tension point, and
Yes.
I think sometimes those things just creep into your work. You say, "Yep, that's right," and you just do it.
Yeah.
And that
And that happened for sure with this, and you know, it just speaks to constraint and being trapped and
yeah,
various things.
the
Hmm.
choice of wires that are pulling, um, and I'm not a I'm just trying to get the right words to say what it feels. Um, they're almost like garter-like, right? There's these little garter-like hooks that are part of that thing, even though they are wires that they look like they could come off of a garage door opener. That these wires have got sealed ends on them, but they got that button hook loop thing feeling to them, you know, as
Oh,
well. So that's something that I speak out regularly on pieces of work, and I find stuff in here, and I'm not looking for faces or anything, but there is some dead animal hanging there too. But
well, I try not to be too didactic, so I like the work to be suggestive, but let's also let people have their own interpretations and experiences of it. So yeah, so that's cool what you found in there. Yeah.
more, yeah, I get my brain goes off in different directions sometimes. But it's a nice way to say your work has depth to it. So there's rather than just it's cloth skirt hanging on a wall. Now you said this is in Mylar as well. This one, yeah,
Yes, Mylar.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when you hang Mylar, is it hung away from the wall, or do you hang it uh, flat on the wall?
Flat on the wall. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know some people will, we've had other years ago artists that did dance figures on Mylar, and they were actually hung away from the wall so you could walk three-dimensionally around them. And they
Oh.
were kind of a visual installation that you get a different context to it because you actually could walk around them. Uh, these pieces. I could see a piece like this working like that. Just love way more too many ideas for you. Just way many too many more ideas.
And this is a different series of work back on wood panels, again, employing wallpaper to be a metaphor for patterns within society, patterns that you know, patterns of behavior and ideas that are in families.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and this employs encaustic as well. The blue part behind the figures is encaustic.
Okay. So that's over the wallpaper. So this is
Yeah.
all based on the wallpaper, and then these figures are put on top. Now,
Mhm.
are these figures actually photographs that have been hand colored, or are you actually painting these figures in?
They're actually painted, and they are on Mylar. They're part drawn and partly painted, and they are on Mylar, and it's attached to the back or to the wax behind them.
Right. So
And
there's a.
and sorry.
Don't go ahead. I'm just
Oh, and
finish.
there's little bits of wallpaper encroaching onto some of the figures or a couple of the figures, and that's my way of saying that you know the past is it has impacted how they are living their lives in the present. So
Right.
the past, the pattern on the wallpaper, all speaks to patterns of behavior and ideas and thoughts and so on.
Yeah. Being part of an art community, I love potlucks. I mean, love to go to a potluck. Get great food. You get this huge variety, especially
Yeah.
people from different regions. They bring their ethnic food to it, and it's like you get to taste test all these different things. But guys rarely get invited to all these potlucks. I mean,
Oh, that's a shame.
the women have amazing potlucks. I mean, all the different groups that were out there. Guys are sort of, well, some will cook, but but I know guys will stop by and pick something up at the grocery store and bring it along, right? And just kind of,
Right.
yeah, kind of, yeah. We donated and contributed to the pile, but boy, what did you make?
Well, you could start a whole new trend by making
Yeah.
dishes to take.
Well, they should. Well, you just
Hear the
you just don't want a potluck full of just everybody brings a salad. Oh my goodness. Where is the red meat? No red meat. Chicken's quite a popular one. Actually, they have some amazing. We're talking food, but casseroles and different things, and actually some amazing different salads.
Mhm.
But you feel this enjoyment of this group of three ladies that are this potpourri of festivity in front of them. I mean,
Mhm.
wine is there, and there coffee, tea, whatever, cakes, and all kinds of these delectables, and for the moment, right? And it's just celebratory. Actually, a lot of it tends to be we too potlucks tend to be at the end of an event or during an event that you're involved in, whether it's a retreat or some different thing that you've been working on. But I love the palette of these things. So the facial features are definitive, but the body things are more linear and flat pattern. It kind of holds things together. And I love the gray and caustic in the back. It pulls it together. I mean, it gives you a really nice feeling with it being without being painted to the edge. And so we actually working on did the wallpaper. Do you actually adhere first of all the wallpaper to the substrate?
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
wet it down and get it stuck. Okay, yeah. Now, does the mylar create some shining to it that is awkward, or is it shiny mylar?
No, it's matte.
Matte finished. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering because there's no real reflections on it.
Yeah. No.
The matte surface also would receive pigment easier, I would think.
Mhm.
Well, it
Mhm.
wouldn't be puddling because there's an oil product, right? Yeah. Well,
Mylar is great. I love painting with oil on mylar. I really like the way the paint slides around.
right.
Um, it's lovely.
So, have you tried Yupo paper at all?
Yes, recently. I haven't done a lot with UPO, but I've done a few little experiments, but nothing that I would show at this point.
Yeah, but it does move pigment around quite fluidly on that
Mhm.
substrate. Now this is a big piece.
Yes. This is also on mylar,
Yeah,
and it's 7 feet by 15 feet.
holy smokes! Yeah,
Yeah. And it's also has a lot of, it's hard to see in this image. I should have given a detailed image as well, but it's these figures are being covered to various extents by the wallpaper. So they are literally fading into the background, becoming the background of the next generation's life.
right. What it is with this piece is it's it's bigger than a little 30 by 40 on a wall, like a painting you can walk up to and look at, move to the next one. This one being in a corner almost feels like part of the house, like
Yes, it takes the shape
you're
of a
in the
room.
home
Hmm.
and you're actually experiencing a relationship between two people here that are fading away and into it. It has lots of different connotations you can read into what's going on in this one. It's a very 50s, 60s look about the feeling in a home. I think that's part of because of your diary where you're pulling images from, your photo
Hmm.
references are coming from those mother father figures and things and I can relate to some of these types of things with my own parents. The relationships that they had. Dad goes to work, mom stays at home. A little bit until later in the 60s, women were started working a little bit more. They had to. Everything was going up in price, had to work. Nowadays, everybody has to work pretty much to have anything at
Hmm.
all. But in those early days, it was the guy's job to be the breadwinner, and the mom was to take care of the home.
Hmm.
And uh,
Hmm.
and this is I love the loose rag line across the top of the page. It just, rather than a straight line, it merges nicely with the gallery wall and the feeling that's in there. It's just kind of a, yeah, it's
Right.
a beautiful piece.
And
So this,
it kind of echoes what happens when you're removing wallpaper. It doesn't come off in a straight line.
that has a whole other connotation and just what it means. Yeah, I know about removing wallpaper. I had to do it a little bit before, a few times. But it's the tearing away of images. I mean, you can read a lot into that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of
Mm-hmm.
things. But it's a lovely piece in the way it's played through.
Thank you.
This one here. So initially, I looked at this thing and I said, "Oh, there's a guy with leggings." I thought it was like 1800 type of guy wearing a coat. It's not a guy at all.
No,
It's a woman. And
it's a,
can you just give us a little bit about what this one is? I'll hate to say different than a previous one. Like
yes.
it's not torn paper and it's torn images in your mind. But can you tell us what this one's about?
Sure. This is actually a commissioned piece, um, commissioned by the Robert McLaughlin Gallery in Oshawa, in Ontario. And the gallery was going to be doing an exhibition about two women artists who were part of the McLaughlin family. And this woman featured here is Alexandra Luke, and she married into the McLaughlin family. She wanted to be an artist, but her family was very discouraging. And she mainly did abstract work. You know, this was back in the 50s, probably. And it was very frowned upon in her family. They really hated her work, but she was determined to go ahead and she taught classes. She joined art societies. She went to the US and studied with Hans Hofmann. She was friends with the group of 11 painters in Ontario. And she and Isabel McLaughlin did a lot to promote Canadian art and especially women's art.
Yeah, you can see the tension from behind, the family, the the man holding her arm. Lot, there's lots of vehicles being used here to bring the message through. So this was
Mhm.
a commission. This is a commission piece.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And it's a oh, sorry about that. That's my phone ringing. It's a large piece on Mylar as well. There's some collage elements in there as well. And it's now in the permanent collection of the McLaughlin Gallery.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Oh, that's good. Beautiful piece.
Thank you.
So you're working with photography as well, I can see.
Yeah, yeah. Now I've gone in a totally different direction here. um, this is a photograph actually of my daughter. I had her come and pose for me. I had this idea of people dealing with various kinds of constraints in their lives, whether they were emotional or intellectual or, you know, constraints put on them from family, or whether they were, you know, physically constrained. And so this series of work, I made quite a few of these, is all about trying to deal with those constraints, whatever they might be, and get out of them somehow. So here she's looks like she's trying to feel her way out of this um, restricted area or box that she's in.
Yeah. It does give that feeling. It's like that, that shower glass feeling,
Mm-hmm.
see only can see certain pieces, the fingertips for sure are
Mm-hmm.
are coming through. I think it's really important that artists, explore different ways of experiencing. Especially your work for sure is looking at experiencing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and trying, if photography works, push it, try it, figure it out. If something else in caustic works, use it. That doesn't mean you have to use it all the time, but I think they become devices that solve problems and questions in your future works. It also influences the direction that you're going. If don't be afraid to hire somebody, like you said, your daughter, to come and pose for you to do something. Otherwise, if you don't ask somebody, "Can I take your picture?" it'll never happen. right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just all they can do is say no. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, and you say, fine, I'll go on to the next person until they finally say yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's only when you have your heart set on a certain figure and a look and a face, I really want that person, that you have to encourage them, and sometimes you have to pay them to have it. And he said, well, that's just part of being it. You have to make your moment happen. While you're in the right mindset, and if you just go out and do it. If you like to plein air, just go out and plein air, because if you don't, the day is gone, and that moment leaves you, and you move on to another one. But I'm glad you do these things, because they're so different than the other ones, but they are
Yeah,
just but
it's
they
a bit of a left turn.
well, it's a different way of looking at the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a very minimalist way. It's not so hard edged definitive. It's and you can read a lot of stuff into it. I mean, it could be a person trying to get out of a swimming pool for all you know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't you don't know what it really could be. The shower scene from Hitchcock, the shower glass. You can't see all the detail. It leaves so much for you to read into it. I like works like that. It's
Yeah, that's quite deliberate. I wanted pieces, everything I do actually, to be open to people's interpretation. I don't want to dictate what people should get out of a piece. And I've tended to work in series, and so each series has a slightly different idea that is being tackled. And for this seemed like the best way to express what I was trying to do.
so is this a Lexan box, like a Lexan front on the box,
It's
like a
um,
plastic? Is it a
there's a transparent acrylic front, and then the sides are white acrylic. I had them made by an artist who works in Toronto. Actually, he's I think he's back in Toronto now, but he doesn't do this kind of work for other artists anymore. He just does his own thing.
Yeah. So he makes these boxes. So
Yeah.
is it a kind of is the picture just pasted in there, or is it?
No, actually, because some parts of the figure appear to be closer to the front of the box. As you were saying, the hands are more
Mhm.
in focus than some other parts of the figure.
Yeah.
So the parts of the figure that are less in focus are towards the back of the box. And so there's a lot of construction of parts of the photograph inside the box. Lots of cardboard
Yep.
holding parts of the photograph in different relation to the front or back of the box.
Yeah. Have you worked with lighting at all in it, or is this just reflective lighting from the gallery?
Yeah,
That's
that's all it is. Yeah.
all it is. So it just comes through, rather than you actually. Have you worked with lighting from inside the box? Anything at all? Have you tried
No,
that? Okay.
there's no lighting inside the box. No.
Yeah, that's lovely. We're back to something. It feels very, very illustrative here. This one. It's just there's a story here. I don't know. It's kind of she almost feels like there's this mask of family over her face, and I kind of
Yes, again, this is another distinct series, and it is about the things that influence you from the past, these sort of patterns of behavior and social norms and things and expectations that take the place of what you might have been without any of them involved. So these things that are handed down end up being what speaks you, so to speak. And that comes from a quote from a David Lodge book called "Nice Work." And the quote is, "You are what speaks you," and it's a reference to your identity, to your selfhood being handed down through culture. And of course, this particular piece is, and there's wallpaper in the background of the cutout part of the face there. This particular piece is about expectations that family comes first in women's lives. Um, Again, I've used my daughter. She's the model for the face, and the photograph is the actual image of the woman and child that's placed in front. There is from a reference from a photograph from my family.
Yeah. No, it has, you really do get it's illustrative, there's
Mhm.
like you said, there's this story, and I think people can make up very quickly what it could be about. I mean,
Mhm.
direction of the eyes become really important in what your daughter's eyes are there, point, off to the one side. Not looking straight at me, the audience, it's sort of all those little fluctuations make a difference, and sometimes they're intuitive. They just happen. You just go with it. Why you like one image over, and then you probably took a number of photos of your daughter to work from. So those things become just ingrained in you. What ones to choose, and sometimes everything just works out just the right way for the message that you're putting across. It's nice to see these images in a gallery where there's dozen of them together, one right after the other, and it's like turning pages in a book, and you do get a semblance of the story, even if there's no written word, or an audio tape or something that goes with them. So, which is a whole other way of doing things as well.
Mhm.
This,
Aha.
uh, this one I love. I mean, we talked about this the other day, and this
Yeah.
piece, and I think we've all, whether you're a boy or a girl at a function, we've all been through something like this somewhere in our lives. If you've got any kind of mischief in you, you for sure, or you've been bored. Yeah, you for sure have been through here.
Yes, definitely. And that was the whole idea of this. um, and and I thought that, as you were saying, boys, girls, whoever can connect with this kind of experience in their own lives, and that was part of the intention with this was, to connect with people on that level of experience and memory and emotion involved.
Right. This one's different than the other pieces because this one is painted to the edge. All four edges are
Yeah.
painted. It's a full image, yet your figures are um, ghost-like in the background. They're just linear drawings. They're there, but they're not the most important part, which is part of like when you go to these family functions, it's you hear that burr 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 of noise in the background of people mumbling and talking, yet there's a conversation with you and somebody else in the foreground that's clear that you can hear what's going on and something going on. And it's a nice way to depict this, in a visual manner. It's because those are complicated things. They're simple when you look at them in this context now, but when you're actually developing that as an artist, you say, how do I make it so that the people in the background are not important as much as the people in the foreground? And these things get solved as you work through them. And you start focusing on it. It's a well designed piece. I give you credit for it. Very complicated amount of figures and design and shapes with chairs and tables. But I'm just sort of critiquing a little piece here, but I love how mom is kind of wrapped around the daughter with her color, the color of the dress, and it sort of holds. This is important. Pay attention to this little girl for a change. She wants to be. She's bored stiff. She really wants to get out of there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but
And this is from a different series of work than the previous one on Mylar.
yeah,
This is mixed media on wood panel.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to see this whole family event play out. These are lovely. I mean, there's a story here. I mean, I'd love to see this kind of illustration in a book, like somebody saying, "I'd love to do poetry or some kind of thing and use work like you've got here to say this is a visual image to some words that somebody has written to it." I'm sure there is stuff out there. Do you work in collaborations at all, or
No, I never have.
no?
It's an interesting idea, though.
Well, somebody. I can't imagine with encaustics and people hot air guns and different things, and you're trying to do things, but working with, say, a writer of some kind, whether it be poetry or some different things to get in context it'd be very kind of neat.
I have artist friends who have done that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it gives like it's sort of like that doing the writing on top of work or with work that you work with. It gives you another level, but when you work with another person, not so much drawing on your work, which I never really like that part, but their interpretation of what is going on gives you another dimension to a work. Um, yeah, it's lovely.
And this is part of the same series. I'm not this. None of this is encaustic anymore. It's just oil on board.
Oil on board. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, that's a big doll. That's girl with
That's a
doll.
big doll.
Well, it feels almost childlike, and if the the brush strokes are strong. So do you use different devices to apply pigment, or is it strictly a brush?
No, I actually I'll show you. Excuse me. I I found these in an art supply store, and
Yeah.
they come in different configurations, but it's very nice to move the paint along the
Yeah.
surface with one of these.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I've done the background in this particular image.
How big is this piece of work then?
This is, one sec. Oh, it's 24 by 20.
Okay, so it's a decent size, yeah.
Mhm.
Right. So again, the figure becomes really important, and I think the the house is almost it's there, but I don't know. There's that tension feeling a little bit in there. I don't know what it is. There's some kind of. Um, can you explain a little bit about the reason for
Sure.
this a little bit?
Well, I wanted to leave this really open to interpretation. Um, but I suppose what I could say about it is that, the girl holding the doll is obvious. Well, you said to me earlier that in our other conversation that this person looked almost like a fully grown human, but she's actually a girl holding the doll, and it's I guess a reference to childhood that is something less than ideal. We don't know what the story is here, but it doesn't look like a happy one.
Yeah, she's left alone with her own doll as her friend. You know,
Yeah, that's an interesting. Yeah, that's an appropriate way of looking at it. I think. Yeah.
I think a lot of girls had that they lived out, their fairy tale princess life in through doll houses and dolls and the story and the teas and the different things, and your teddy bears are all set up for dolls. And uh, I had daughters, so I went through this whole having a tea with them, and and come home and the house is full of dolls everywhere, like Barbie dolls stacked up like cordwood. It was like crazy. Well, I had the younger daughter used it like was not very respectful, I guess, of my older daughter's doll collection. When she got home from school, those dolls were without clothes and they were stacked up like cordwood, and they were. There was a little tension in the house. Let me tell you, there was. But the two
I can
siblings,
imagine.
they get along now really well. But in day one, they were at each other. It was pretty funny with two girls in the house. Yeah. I'm living with three women in the house at that time. Yeah, right.
My husband was in the same boat.
Yeah, well, we got through it. Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. Yeah, everything's good. These are lovely. How big are these little pieces? Like there's six small paintings. Are they like 8 by 8s or 12 by
They
12s?
are. They're 8 by 8.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're on wood panel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we
They
know
are.
this. Can
And
you
they
walk
are
us?
all
Can you walk us through the
referencing.
6 images?
Sorry.
Can you walk us through the 6 images?
Sure,
Just start with the top left, and then we get
sure. Top left. It's called Sail Away. There's a bird there, and there's images of nature, flowers, and things. And it's kind of a farewell to nature as it was, because we are entering a time when things are changing quite drastically, and nobody knows how it's going to end up. But
right. Yeah,
it's pretty awful. I'm just thinking about the fires in Los Angeles right now. The unprecedented rain and unprecedented fires. It's
extremes. Yeah, the
yeah,
world of extremes for sure. Yeah.
yeah.
And our
And
middle one.
then the second one has to do with AI being incorporated to grow things, grow flowers in this case, but grow food, um, uh,
Right.
continue the expansion of industrialized farming in a new way,
Right.
which we might need.
Well,
um,
there's a lot of rooftop gardening going on right now too. So
mhm,
Montreal's
yeah.
a couple of big greenhouses on the top of a roof. Uh,
Hmm.
one on the right, top right.
One on the top right is about learning and knowledge, and the history of learning and knowledge, and how it's impacted how we deal with the environment.
Yeah.
So these are old books. Um,
Okay. Yeah. All stacked up. Okay. Our
yeah.
bottom left is are those teacups?
Yes. And again, it's like things falling out of the teacups, things spilling. I think it's actually called spillover. So things not being as they should be, but spilling over into to do new areas, um, new catastrophes, new losses.
Yeah. I mean, these beautiful images that have horrific backgrounds, like of image of connotation, like where they come from. And I think you can do that. You can create beauty out of, um, I guess, thoughts that are a little bit more severe and are caustic in thought, but the work can be very, very pleasant, which is kind of a nice contradiction. There's a
Hmm.
thing that's
Yeah.
happening. And the one in the middle, the bottom.
Again, that's an old book. It's called Through the
Wow.
Ages, and it really references the notion that every piece of knowledge that we've gained through the ages has had positive and negative effects.
Yeah, yeah. Just because you know history doesn't mean you're not going to repeat it. And we know what's happening. We've been through that. Um, and the last image is a little Salvador Dali like this one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, with the clock, with the watch in there, and it's called ticking, and it's basically reference to the clock is ticking, and we're running out of time to change what we're doing so we can continue to have a world to live on.
Right. This is a great way, 6 little images that talk about things of concern, environmental concerns and such. And I think these generate ideas when you can do bang, 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 like little thumbnails of ideas and work them up into a piece of work. And whether a big show comes out of them or not, but it's a way of generating content and ideas. And I think I love this little piece. And was this all part of a show that you were in?
Yes, it was actually. These pieces were in a gallery last Christmas. The gallery Paul Petro Contemporary in Toronto has a show every year called Christmas Spice, where he puts up all manner of small works and multiples by various artists. And so these 6 were in that show last year.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's nice to have a place to show your work as well when it goes through. This our last.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think, if you've had more than one sibling, you get this feeling of my turn. It's like, where's my hug? You know, it's sort of like with your parents, and sometimes you want the attention of one parent, and they're busy with the other daughter or your sister or brother, and that's what I kind of got out of this thing a little bit. Again, the house is there, but it's muted back, and it's not the focal point, but it's the setting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it is. I like the settings. I mean, it's almost like theater. You've set these things up, but they're almost like, remember the paper dolls girls used to cut out, and the old patterns that used to be in pattern books.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could see the little tabs where you had to fold the little dresses over. You built a little cardboard doll, and then you'd fold the clothing over top. My sister had those. I had to go through that, and she'd fold all this thing over, and you have this little play thing that would be standing up. Things that we used to do. But anyway, I love this thing. It's been a good talk. I appreciate your time, and I'll bring Stephen in there. Oh, there he is. There he is.
Yeah, I'm back. The killjoy's here. So, Teri, the work is wonderful. Let me ask you this: if somebody wants to buy your work, what's the prices from where to where?
Oh my goodness. It really depends on the size. Smaller works could be anywhere from $300 or $400 all the way up to like $1,500 for larger works. It just really
Well,
depends.
it's good because people watching this may go, "Oh, I really like it," and then they hear the price, they're like, "Oh, I can afford it," so they want to reach out to you. And some people like it if we don't ask the price, then they won't reach out because they don't know if they can afford it or not. So we always like to ask.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but
It's a good, no, it's
I
a good
enjoy it.
modest range. It's a very good modest
And it's
range.
Canadian, folks. So if you're in Europe, it's free,
It is.
and if you're in the United States, it's free. So it's like $4 US either way. So you're good. And if you're in Asia, I think she just sells you everything, and you're good. So there you have it. So,
No,
but no, the stuff was absolutely gorgeous. I loved it, and there was a couple of them where, in my opinion, and I know nothing, they almost looked like they were pictures, like with a camera, not a painting. And I was like,
Oh,
that is very cool. Yeah, I
oh.
enjoyed it very much. Who knew? I knew something about art. Anyway, that's it. So, well, thank you so much for your time today. And thank everybody for watching. That's watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like. And next week, Paul will be back with another world famous artist from
number,
Canada that you
yeah,
don't know about.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the interest in my work.
yeah.
And I hope you
Our
both have a
pleasure.
lovely day.
You
Thank
too
you.
as well. And to our fans, don't forget to subscribe and like, and we'll see you all next week. Cheers, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.